What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to another video. Joining me here for a bench workout on another bench, and we are, not in our usual spot. So if you go to a gym that cares about their members, they'll have different upholstery, different benches that will assist you in lifting. And so the shirts I wear are soft, they're moisture wicking, they're pretty cheap. So the one downside is you will slip on certain surfaces, like whatever this faux leather stuff is. So a way to do that is to apply a band across, and it just provides friction, so when you drive, you're not sliding up. If you're benching correctly with leg drive, you will push yourself up a bench, so if you don't drive your shoulders and upper back into the bench, you will fly off, and then if you're not doing that, you're not benching correctly. So that's kind of the solution there. Prefer that Thompson pad for sure. Nice and grippy, you don't really need to worry about the band, and it's also thicker, but harder to clean, so there's a trade-off there. But basically throwing up bench here on 275, and same old, so whenever I change benches I do have to acknowledge that. So through the wrist wraps on here, and sometimes the band can get a little bit uncomfortable with the thing running right down the mid-back. So but we make do with what we have. That's life. Sometimes you walk in, and unless it's your own gym where you've got your own setup, you've got really no control over kind of what's going on. Somebody could be using it. Piece of equipment could be, out of commission, but you got to do what you got to do. So through the wrist straps on here, wrist straps, see? It's like a weird colloquial term. They're wrist wraps, not straps. Straps are for pulling. But yeah, just some added support here. Sometimes with the close grip, you'll see there the taper off from rep 2 to 3. I will lose power, so it's just something that happens here. So working on it, and those are kind of like a fail safe to kind of make sure that I can do it, but hit my upper limit. So moved on. OHP here, gonna start pushing this, and I will start adding the wrist wraps back just to support the joint. I've got really weak wrists. Never had a grip issue when it comes to pulling or doing any sort of back movement, but when it comes to pressing, it's very strange. Super dainty wrists and ankles, so I've learned to lift around it, and I think I've done a pretty good job of that, but there is going to always be a downside to that. It could be a weak point in pressing, so add some extra support there and you get a little bit more efficient, stack the joints better. But this weight isn't too heavy. We're kind of getting our confidence back, and we will be able to, press more weight soon. Just taking it slowly. There's no real incentive to really push anything. Listen to my body, how I feel, and right now it's telling me, sometimes the wrist stuff's a little too much. So flat dumbbell bench here, same thing, just trying to keep the intensity high, reps high. Now I could drop, down on the reps and go heavier in weight though, but we only go up to, I think, 120 pound dumbbells. So trying to really focus on the rep work and the endurance here. And there is a taper off when you go heavier with the reps increased. You may have to take a longer rest set, kind of go from there. But I just try to do as many reps as I can, just kind of choose the weight and try to get 3 good sets in. And it doesn't really matter if, you take long rest periods, as long as you're getting the reps and recovering, that's all that matters. So that's kind of the game plan. But I like to move though, so if it's not moving too well, I'll kind of get what I can get and then, reevaluate coming forward. Incline fly here. Really liking this machine, and again, just makes it easier. Whenever I would do any sort of like dumbbell fly, with the thickness of the dumbbells, they're rolling around. It's kind of hard to maintain, like I mentioned, with the weak wrists. This is just kind of set and forget, and you do have to find the crook of where you want that pad to sit. And once you find it and you find your groove, it's real nice and easy. You can just focus on the contraction. You don't have to worry about balancing the weight. We've done all the stability stuff from, the barbell and the dumbbell movement, so we're good. Moving on to SSB here. So another video where we're in the other rack. So lighting a little bit different here, so apologies for that. But just working up here, and I believe this is Saturday. Yep, because we did close grip the day before. So we're doing the SSB setting, so a little bit more upright, a little bit more quad than the low or high bar position. So just slowly working our way up here, finding our groove. And I'm trying to control the descent. I notice if everyone wants to dive bomb their squats, get there quickly, but I'm finding, to a degree, the longer the rep you have, the better you have to load all the different muscles. And then you're spring loaded at the bottom, it's easier to drive out. If you dive bomb a squat and then you lose tightness, you start to see that power leak. You start to see inefficiencies in your training. So instead of trying to get to the finish point as quickly as you can, take your time, be strategic, load everything correctly, and it's more time under tension. So that's what I need to do. I really hate squatting though, so I try to get it over as quickly as I can, which is why I'd rather just kind of go down and finish it here. But the Addy Powers, which are the weightlifting shoes I use, or any heeled shoes, are making these a little bit easier to recover from. And I think just with the training uptake, we're building certain areas of the body with muscle, and it's redistributing my leverages. So I have to be cognizant of that. Like I said, the weak ankles and stuff, sometimes I feel like I'm very top heavy. So any exercise where you're relying on balance could be a weak point. So kind of slow these down, find my balance, and just really control it going that way. So again, these are looking pretty good. Again, not going to be some world-class squatter or whatever, but I am still going to put in the work. And then every time I come in, I'm trying to change, become a little bit more efficient, even when I watch the videos. So that was nice and controlled there. And you can see how a little bit more upright I am with the heels. Just puts myself in a better position. And then the rest is just, personal things for myself. So foot stance, control into Ascent, kind of going from there. Sumo deadlift, and that moved pretty slow for a first rep for me, so I could tell, we're a little bit fatigued here, but we're all still going to hit our numbers. Got to keep working and just putting in the effort and kind of going from there. So doing triples, and then of course just always showing the angles here. We're trying to maintain form. We're trying to be consistent with every rep and pull at, maximum speed, drive through the floor, get that hip hinge, and then get that hip drive to really get my hips underneath here, and you'll kind of see a little bit of extended setup. Now, I am somebody that if you give me grips, if you give me the Versa grips or any other knockoff or straps, I do lose power. I like to be connected to the bar fully, but with sumo deadlifts, if you do an over-under grip, there is windmilling that can occur, and trying to avoid that. The less disturbances you get while deadlifting, the more efficient the pull becomes. So yeah, I could do hook grip, but I've shown people before I've got little tiny itty bitty thumbs. Not much to grip, tearing skin, it's just not worth it. So the over under is great, and I would do the over on the left side, which I tore the tendon on, so it's not like that's the side that's the underhand. And I just monitor it, make sure that's okay. But on sumo, I'd rather just use the grips to kind of balance all that out and save the over-under for conventional, where that's where I really rely on that speed off the ground to finish the lift. Longer range of motion and, just a more difficult movement than the sumo. I threw the band on these just to kind of see if I could emulate some sort of, adduction here. And it did feel really good. I like the support of it, though. So something I'm probably not going to continue doing. We do have a abductor machine, so I'm going to start using that, but it's pretty popular. So I wanted something that really emulated exactly what I was doing, which is why I did it during squats. But that extended range of motion on the swing squat was giving me some ankle and knee issues. So I'm going to reevaluate that here. Leg extensions per usual. And I'm not trying to go too much of an extension here, because that's when, knee problems and stuff like that can occur. So I'm just finding that happy medium between extension and relaxation, where I'm able to kind of get what I want out of it. And especially with the injured leg side I have, which I guess will just be perpetual at this point, just got to leverage myself in and then kind of go from there. So not too bad, but those are, kind of the thoughts on that. So you got to be careful when you've got injuries and stuff like that. So anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching the latest video. If you want to help support the channel, I actually own my own wet shaving and grooming e-commerce website where everything's handmade by me. It's www.apexsoaps.com, and you can get a 10% off code using wet shaver. We've got some cool scents here. We've got some Coca-Cola scents, a horchata scent, traditional barbershop, just some really cool stuff. And you can purchase samples or you can buy the whole set. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out via email. Be quick to respond. Thanks for watching.